Bert! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. It is the 2nd of January, and you know what? Hang on a minute. There you go. We made it. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's are stressful. It's the holidays. It's all behind us now. We got 2022 to look up to. And I'm gonna tell you, if you skip this to get to the episode, well, you're gonna miss some stuff, okay? I always lead off with certain things. No, I'm just gonna go right down the list. Pike Gear, my title sponsor, technical clothing for the upland hunter, pants, shirts, vest, hunting vest, socks, you name it, they have it. They don't have underwear? I'll bet you it's coming. Onyx mapping systems, I don't know how you can go without it. I mean, if you only hunt in one spot, yeah, fine, you can go without it. Not the end of the world. But if you want to travel, you want to find new places to hunt, to train, Onyx, you can't find a better tool in your toolbox than Onyx. You can't find a better gun than CZ shotgun for the money and the quality, period. That's it, period. Like everything I got here is just period. The best you can get for your money. Boss shot shells, find me one that works better. Copper plated bismuth, the only company out there that has copper plated bismuth. Because why? Because they figured it out. Show the bird who's boss with Boss shot shells. You still got a little season left if you're chasing snow geese or mallards or wherever you're hunting. There's some season left out there. Check out Boss shot shells. When you get something shot with your CZ because you found out where to hunt with your Onyx, because you were wearing some Pike gear, and because you were using Boss shot shells, go to Walton's, get their catalog, turn your kitchen into a pro kitchen. Walton's has everything but the meat. So if you can find the meat, Walton's got everything else for you. Just like Purina's got everything for your dog. That's it. I mean, what else can I say about Purina? They got everything for your dog. Gunner Kennels got everything to keep your dog safe, their food safe, and now Gunner Kennels has a little water. And I say little because it is little. It's a water container that goes on the outside of your kennel door, goes onto the inside, and gives your dog some water on demand. Now, right now, do you need it? Now, it might freeze right now if you're up in Michigan, but I'm telling you, the Gunner Dog Door Waterer, another innovation, thanks to Addison. He says, I'm going to come up with something every year that people need, and to be honest with you, I think they're sold out. But go to the website and check out the Gunner Waterer for the food, the food crates, the counter, just, you know what I'm saying. Garmin. Now, there's a lot of changes coming with Garmin. Nothing bad, but I'm telling you, I just did a podcast with Jason Doobie from W Hunting Supply, and I asked him, and wasn't trying to pull the answer out of him, like, please tell me it's Garmin. What is your number one seller? 10-1 Garmin. Now, there's other stuff out there, but there's other dog foods out there too. What do? You go to Purina. Go to Garmin. Go to W Hunting Supply to get anything you need. Well, you can get leashes and check cords and everything else, but when you need your electronic gear for training, go to W Hunting Supply, look at Garmin. And when you're ready to start training your dog, like you take your dog's health, like you take your health, go to Canine Athlete, Wilderness Athlete. You can find Hydrate and Recover for you and your dog. You can find Energy and Focus for you and New Dog for your dog. You can find probiotics for you and for your dog. There's no other company that takes care of you and your dog like Canine Athlete. The deck drawer system, like I said 100 times, I don't see them in everybody's truck, but every time I go somewhere, I see another one. Check out deck drawer systems like I like it. It's like having two giant junk drawers. And if you run a pickup truck or an SUV, you got a lot of gear. Pull the drawers open, stuff it in there. At least you know it's there. Now, you could be more organized than I am, but I love having 2 6-foot junk drawers. Got my collars, my guns, my leashes, my gloves, check cords, extra shotgun shells, toolboxes. You can put damn near everything I'm telling you about in that deck drawer system. Shooting Sportsman magazine, and I am a spokesperson for the Upland Institute, right? Obviously, I'm the main videographer and producer and director of the Upland Institute. So check out the Upland Institute. We're going to have some stuff coming up that, well, anyway, most of you know what it is. If you don't know what it is, go to the Upland Institute, become a better trainer, train a better dog with the Upland Institute. Now, here's the deal. I always go into a big diatribe about Patreon patrons. And I'll tell you, last Thursday, and all right, some of you are saying, whoa, slow down, Ron. You talk like you're snorting cocaine. Patreon patrons are people who listen to the show that's 100% free, but yet they give me a few bucks a month because they love the show and they get some discounts on a lot of my products, not all of them. Some of them are dictated by MSRP. Some of them aren't. But when I can get you a discount on something, I do it if you're a Patreon patron. But we added a second tier to Patreon, and that's going to be for something called Dog Talk. And I found out that that's a registered name, so I haven't actually written it down anywhere. So we're going to call it Hunting Dog Talk. And once a month, I'm going to have some extra content out there for those people who want to join that tier. And this isn't just going to be an interview with somebody or, me just talking about my dogs. Well, it might be. But I might be talking about my first dog. I might be talking about my first wife. I might be talking about that I got held up twice when I was a beer driver. I might be talking about all the you-know-what that went down with me and a whole lot of stuff with NAVDA and judging. I might be talking about the NAVDA election. But that's only going to be on Tier 2. So if you really want to get deep, you're not going to want to miss that one. I'm just saying. As a podcaster, everybody knows I pretty much say what I want to say and do what I do. But I watch my language and I watch what I'm saying. I'm not politically correct by any means. Hell, I drink and I smoke. Not popular, smoking especially. But Hunting Dog Talk is going to be just another. We're going to peel one layer back off the onion. You're going to see not going to see a little different Ron. You're going to hear a little different Ron that might be even a little more. Is it possibly to be more forthcoming than I already am? Or just sillier? Or I might have a guest on that I might normally not bring on. Might be one of my best buddies. Has nothing to do with hunting dogs. We don't know. We don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to do it. I hope you join up and find out what it's all about. Anyway, this episode was Sean Rogers, my first episode of the year, 2022, and we're talking Labradors. That's right. And we're talking Golden Retrievers. Yeah. Okay. Are you saying like, what? What's going on? You're changing? No, I'm not changing. I'm just adding content. And I love, everybody knows I love Golden Retrievers. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode with Sean Rogers from Patriot Retrievers. We had a great talk, and I got a new place to go hunting in South Dakota. Hey, everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. I'm on the phone with Sean Rogers, and he has a kennel called Patriot Retrievers out in South Dakota. I'll leave the location, exact town out of it, Sean, so you don't get inundated with people trying to shoot your ducks or pheasants. But
sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. South Dakota's a big state. They're going to have to do a lot of searching. Anyway, one of my listeners said you need to get a hold of Sean. He competes with the dog. He trains them. He's raised it. He's in it. And I love meeting another person. You get done with this for an hour phone call, and I guarantee you at some point I'll be letting you know when I'm driving through South Dakota. But
Absolutely,
anyway,
yeah, you need to do that.
Yeah, Sean, give us just a little backstory. How you got into this?
Well, so I've always loved dogs, and it's one of those things where the first time you go hunting with the dog, and maybe it's not the best experience. You get turned off a little bit. Some of the dogs that I hunted with early on were awful. They were so bad, and then you're like, man, this could this could really be cool to train my pet, this dog that I love, to pick up these birds for me and go everywhere with me, ride around in the front seat of my pickup and do all that stuff. But I really got hooked when I met my mentor, Shane O'Lean, in 2008. Jeez, it's been a long time. In 2008, when I got my second dog, he was just starting his kennel, and it was just studs on the inside. And we met each other at the perfect time. We spent a lot of years running around the country, running hunt tests, training dogs, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things in the whole wide world to do. I love the process. I love taking a puppy at 5.5, 6 months old and taking it through the process. And every time you get through and you teach a dog a concept, a complex concept, like, hey, I'm going to say this word and you're going to run as fast as you can to the horizon and not slow down, not stop until I blow a whistle. That's pretty special.
Yeah. Can't get kids to listen that good, Sean.
No way. I mean, my kids listen pretty well, but they don't listen that well.
They don't listen that well. No.
No, absolutely not.
You know, you said something I want to kind of maybe just, I'll go in and out of tangents here. You said, 5.5, 6 months old. In the pointing dog world, I would tell people, just let the dog be a dog for a while. I see some people kind of push it early. Like, I don't know if they're trying to be the youngest dog someday, somewhere doing something. But what's or at least what you learned from your mentor and your experience, 5.5, 6 months age? Part of that is usually their teeth are erupted and everything, so you're not dealing with baby teeth. But where does that come in? Where did you learn that, or where did you find that works for you? What are you doing with them at that age?
So, at that age, we can teach a dog how to learn. So, I have tools. I have actually 2 different schools of thoughts on it. So, first school, owner did absolutely everything they could. They were going everywhere with puppy. They took puppy swimming. They taught puppy how to sit, place, kennel, hear, heel. They did a bunch of leash work. Mm-hmm. At 5.5 months old, that dog's ready. That dog's ready for a little bit more pressure. That dog's ready for a little bit more.
Yeah, he's like a teenager kind of now. Yeah.
Yeah. We can start asking more of that puppy. And then we have the guys, well, I'm going to send my dog off to a trainer. So I don't want to break it. So, we might have sit. We might be able to come when called. We may go in a kennel. We may not. But those dogs need to start to learn how to learn. Mm-hmm. So the faster we start that process, I think the better off we are. Now, I'm not a fan of, hey, I got a 6-month-old, let's go hunting, right? I think that's the wrong answer. Sure, take them with, but you're not going to put that dog on the ground in front of guns. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, it's a big jump. It's a big jump.
It's a huge jump.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The 5.5, 6-month-old puppies, we can start molding behavior at that age. And I do a lot of treat training. I start all my obedience dogs. Like when I start formal obedience in the kennel, it's all treats. Mm-hmm. It's all fun. It's all, hey, we're having a good time. And then some dogs I know that I can push, and some dogs I know that we're going to do that for a couple of weeks. And we're just going to build that relationship and trust.
Right. You're looking for a certain thing in that dog at that point. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's got to be a willingness to please, and there's got to be a little bit of drive to do what I'm asking you to do. But let's say even middle of the road, average lab, we can start formal obedience, get through force fetch, collar conditioning, and really kind of get into the fun stuff. Mm-hmm. Of throwing birds and marks and all that stuff. By the time they're 8, 9 months old, you can have a pretty dang good bird dog. So,
no real world experience yet, but he looks. If the neighbor come by that couldn't train his dog saw your 9-month-old, he'd be like, wow, he's doing something. Yeah,
doing something. So, we had a litter in April. We had one puppy. His name's Artie, and giant. Dude's giant. Super immature. He's just a jackass. Just a total clown.
I love it.
And he's that big, bouncy, driven dog. And I I've got to remind myself every day we're trained not to put too much pressure on him, because he's doing very well in training. But I've got to keep reminding myself, yeah, he looks like a 2-year-old, big, nasty, I'm going to go pick up everything you throw for me dog, but he's not there yet.
Right.
So every dog's different, obviously, but I like to start them young, not to win a race, not to have the youngest hunting retriever championship or the youngest grand hunting retriever champion.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff will come, and all that stuff takes time.
Right.
And I just think the sooner, when you take a smaller dog, a younger dog, a more immature dog, and start that process of learning, I think the whole thing goes faster.
Yeah.
And goes better, and it goes better for the dog too.
Right.
When you start them young like that. So
yeah, it really establishes the boundaries and the partnership and all them little things that, I was just telling. I was doing an interview this morning with a gal who drove over the entire country. She's a guide at a place in Alabama, but she's not a trainer, and she literally spent her whole summer, meeting different trainers and stuff. And
oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, you realize, like, I'm way past my time of traveling around the country doing this, but I'm like, somebody that age says that's what I'm going to do. She's literally learning from all these different trainers, and we talked about age, and we talked about that, and it seems to be the very same, like teaching them to learn whatever it is, even if it's little tricks. I don't care if you teach them to roll over, right? It's compliance to something you taught them.
Yeah, shaping a behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the willingness to please, and just getting them excited about their job is so important.
Right.
So, yeah.
So your first dog, what was your first dog's name?
Super unoriginal. We talked about that.
Oh,
earlier
yeah,
too.
Deuce, yeah.
So Deuce was number 2. My first dog's name was Jake, and I got Jake. So I got home from basic training December 22nd of 2000, and we picked up Jake on New Year's Day, 2001, and he was my first one. He was that dog that I moved a dozen times in 2 years, and like picking up girls at college with him, riding around in the front seat of my pickup all over the place. We go and living in South Dakota, right? I look back on it now. Yeah, I mean, I went out. When I was in college, I mean, it was like 3 or 4 days a week. Jake and I were driving around the back roads shooting the limit of pheasants, and he was my man. He was my best friend. He was the dog that kind of started everything for me.
Yeah, but
out of a desire to have a better dog.
Right, but you didn't even had you seen labs before that did the marked retrieves and the competitions yet, or was that still off your radar? That
was still way off my radar.
Okay.
I knew about field trials. The internet was obviously
sure
going strong then, so I'd always get in arguments with people about what color I should get or what color is better or whatever, because everybody's like, oh, yellow labs are smarter than black labs.
And chocolate labs don't get, yep.
So I would go to the Retriever News webpage, and I'd be like, hey, dude, what color are those dogs? What sex are those dogs? You can look at all the finalists going all the way back. What color are they? They're black. They're males. And it's been that way forever. And it's still that way. I do have a friend, Brent, my buddy Brent, had 2 dogs in the Nationals this year. And his dog, Camo, who is a yellow male, was the only yellow male finalist this year.
Really?
So super cool. Yeah, I'm so happy for him. But yeah, so that was it. So, and I had grown up with labs, hunting with buddies' labs and other people's dogs and stuff. And everybody up in that area had labs. It was just kind of the way it was. Nobody had pointers. Nobody had Bichlas. Nobody had wire hairs or any of that other stuff. And the guys that I was hanging out with mostly had labs. So, and I was a waterfowl hunter, I'd go poke around and shoot a pheasant here or there, but I was diehard let's hunt ducks and geese.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of where I ended up. So, it was probably 2005 that I went out and actually watched my first field trial.
Okay. Was that, and then, that was dangerous, right?
It was. I didn't have a dog that could do the work though, right? So I was intimidated. I was super intimidated. I showed up with this super overweight, fat Labrador that couldn't have picked up a mark in a phone booth. And so I watched, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm not ready for this. I know I wanted, like, this is a goal for me at some point in my life, but I can't do this now. It'd be totally unfair for the dog."
Right.
And you talk about, generational things. They were all boomers, right? And I am this, on the Z or Y or whatever.
Whatever generation you are. You're not a boomer.
Yeah,
You're not a boomer.
I'm definitely not a boomer.
Yeah.
All the people that were there running the field trials, sitting in the gallery were boomers. And I either didn't have the skill set to develop those relationships with those people or didn't want to. So it took me several years to get to that point to where I finally was able to start entering into that little joyous thing, the incredible field trial. It's super hard.
The vacuum of field trialing, right?
Oh yeah, you just want to beat your head against the wall. But
now, all along, you said you're raised out there, duck hunter, swat a couple pheasants here and there. Did you ever? And this is things that this is barroom talk or bar stool things like,
sure.
Field trial dogs, yeah, nobody hunts them. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's true, but there's
no, it's definitely not true.
But there's probably a sliver of truth in it, right?
There definitely is a sliver of truth in it, and I'll say when I think of the best dogs in the country, I'm talking the guys that are going to the nationals every year, the dogs that are traveling all over the country with the best of the best pros.
Right.
It's no different than a professional athlete. So these dogs are on these guys' trucks, and right now everybody's in Texas and Georgia training, right? They've got a few weeks off before the trials down there really start to kick off. And so, they've had probably a month break since the national. So these dogs are on the trucks and they live it. They live it and breathe it. Now, a lot of those dogs are perfectly capable to get off that truck and go home and hunt with their owners. There's no doubt in my mind that those dogs could be just as good or better than any dog that's in the field.
But they're just in the game of professional competition, basically.
When you think about like professional athletes, baseball is a great analogy for it because their season is so long, right? They start spring training, they're in it. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I think to be successful at that game, you really have to do it because the judges keep setting up stuff that's that much harder. The competition's getting that much better. And it's really one of those things where an average guy, and I consider myself very average, I've had little to no success in the field trial world. I love it because it's competition and it's hard. But for me, I would have to put my dogs on somebody else's truck in the wintertime. There's no doubt about it. Like right now, if my goal is to have an FC, at the end of the day, I got to put that dog on the truck.
You know what you made me think of, and I'm not a big sports person, but everybody knows a little bit about sports. Kind of like when I was a kid, you let's say in 8th, 9th grade or something, you played Little League, right? Your friends are playing Little League, you played Little League. There was no kids going to baseball camps and pitching camps and outfielder camps, right? We're just all, but now if you have a kid, the analogy to a competition dog, you got that kid at a pitching camp, a fielding camp, captain, they have camps. So yeah, you kind of, if you go in that lane, and your competition's all going to camps, your kid's going to go to a camp so he can get a scholarship to school. And pretty soon you're like, yeah, but you never played baseball in the street. You don't know baseball. Like, well, I think he'd be pretty good,
Yeah.
But yeah, people think that a lot. And where I want to wrap or lead it into is in the world that I've judged in for decades, in the pointing dog world, we get that rub. A lot of people, like, some dog will do real well in a test, and somebody will come up to me and say, that dog's never seen a wild bird. And I said, I got a feeling he'd be okay if he did, But they're yes, harder. I wouldn't want him to. I bet that dog could not handle a wild South Dakota rooster real well his first time out. But, he's not going to embarrass anybody. But going back to training for you're a strong hunter. Would a person like yourself that does a little competing and knows the game, would the wild bird experience help your dog more, or would it be more? Would you get all the work done first and then say, I'll take him out duck hunting?
I think you can make arguments either way.
Okay.
But I'll say that there's balance to be had in everything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hunt Artie, right? So he was going through force fetch and collar conditioning right around October, finished up mid-November. He didn't see his first rooster until after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have not hunted him at all, but I thought it was important to give him the exposure. He's a big running dog, and we're not doing a lot of training right now. So one, it's good for him just to get out and exercise and
That's
run
good.
and put the miles on.
Yeah.
But I've got enough birds in the backyard where I can control my environment too. So that's one thing. Am I going to take him to a banger of a goose hunt? I'm probably not till I think that dog's ready. I think if you want to build a solid all around field trial dog, I think you have to expose them to those things. But it's got to be in small doses, and you've got to not take away from any of the training. So
right,
that's a tough deal.
Yeah, real world hunting can for sure take away just because of things you can't control in the water and the weather and the neighbor's dog that's one blind over. And there's a lot of things I could see that, But like we've always said, like I like, I've trained a couple dogs to a high level. I shouldn't even say few. I'm going to be real accurate. 2. Okay. I've had a few I've attempted to do with, but they always had a wild bird season, wherever I was in training. I'm like, no, we're just going to go have fun. I think that's just good for the dog. But, waterfowl hunting is a whole different deal. There's just a lot of manners. So if you're training them to be really steady and really not be a pain in the ass in a boat or a blind, yeah, you don't want to. You'd almost be confusing the dog to say, "Well, I'm going to let you get away with it now."
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what can you control, and if I'm hunting in my backyard, I mean, I can control a lot of what goes on because I'm the one pulling the trigger. I'm not.
Right.
We're not going to let him break. We're not going to let him act like a jackass. So a lot of those things go on, but. Going from the field trial down to the high-end hunt test dog, if your high-end hunt test dog isn't getting hunted, you're wrong, right? So the hunt test that I run, the UKC hunt test, we're looking for the hunting retriever champion, right? And then after that, we're going to go to the grand hunting retriever champion. Those dogs should hunt, and those dogs should be picking up birds and being in that chaos of the hunt because it's only going to make them steadier. As long as you're doing what you need to do as a handler.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying you can go out there and let them run amok and get away with stuff and break and do all that other stuff. But as long as you're doing what you need to do as a handler, the high-end hunt test dogs, those are some of the best hunting dogs in the country. I look at the dogs that are passing the grand right now, and holy cow. Yeah, just awesome dogs. But it's also as real as it gets,
Yeah, so. And that's the difference between the hunt test and the field trial.
Absolutely. Because the field trial is not real whatsoever. Those are not hunting situations. Those are training situations.
Yeah.
Those dogs are trained to deal with those factors. And even you could have a dog deal with the factors every time it stepped up the line and not fade to the factors and pick up all the birds and still not win.
Right.
That's how good these dogs are.
Right.
So you can have a dog never make a mistake in 4 series, get through 4 series in a day. I don't care if it's Derby, Qual, Am, or Open. You can have a dog get through all 4 of those series and not make a mistake and still not win.
Yeah.
And still get your teeth kicked in. So I don't know why I even want to pursue it. But those dogs can still hunt. They can still do it because they're trainable. They have drive and desire. It's like driving a fast car. Everybody wants a fast car.
Right. But I
don't need to go 100 miles an hour, but I want to sometimes.
Right. So the hunt retriever test, give a small picture of that. I have certainly a bigger upland crowd than I do retriever crowd.
Sure.
The hunt test, and I'm relating that to the NAVDA because in the pointing dog world, you'd have the field trialers, which are all style, speed, all those things. Like you said, you could have a great day. The judge didn't pick you, right? But
Right, yeah, absolutely.
in the hunt test, so is the retriever hunt test just like where several dogs can earn their things? You're not competing against a dog, you're competing against a standard? Is that the same in the hunter retriever?
100%. That's 100% correct. So
Okay.
a field trial, I want the guys that I'm competing with to fall in a hole before they get to the line.
Nice.
That's true. That's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
Because I want to beat you.
Right.
So
I want to beat you.
I want to beat you. I want your dog to do bad. I don't dislike you, but I don't want you to do as well as my dog's going to do.
Right.
And at every hunt test I've ever been to, it's like a big family reunion.
Right.
And you build these relationships with all these people. You have all these wonderful people around you, and everybody's rooting for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and everybody wants everybody else's dog to pass. And
Yeah.
so it's a much more laid back environment. There's competition against the standard for sure. And the judges set up difficult tests when they can. And sometimes the tests are easier and sometimes the tests are harder, but you're always competing against the standard.
Right.
And that's the thing in a hunt test where it's more fun. It's more enjoyable.
Right.
It's realistic. We're wearing camo now from head to toe. I don't know whose idea that was, but we can't wear even brown anymore. So you got to wear camouflage from head to toe. You're shooting an 870 on a bucket, and at the highest level, you're shooting a triple and you're running a blind all in the same time. So that's a big deal. Like that's a tough hunt setup.
Right.
And to go back to your upland thing too, the UKC has an upland hunt test. We run an upland hunt test in South Dakota in March.
Oh, nice.
And it's hard, right? It's a finish level test. So you've got to be steady to wing and shot. You're going to find, flush, retrieve to hand 2 birds. You're going to have an honor and we don't do it a version. You're going to have an honor and a walk-up, right? So you've got all these components of the test that's as close to wild pheasant hunting as we can make it. Obviously, we're using 10 race birds and things like that, and we're planting them. But when you unhook your dog and you're walking the line and there's no lead, there's no collars, there's no nothing. It's just you and your dog, and you've got to go have that much control in a chaotic pheasant field. It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It
And
feels.
I'll tell you,
It feels good. I mean, it's fun. It's like you get an
fun, and the dogs love it.
Yeah.
Oh man, they love it.
Yeah, I never saw a dog at a hunt test that was unhappy. Like, oh,
This sucks.
these
I don't
aren't
wanna do
wild
this.
birds. You know.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. To hear. I don't think I've talked to a few people, and I always assume with the name hunt test, it's a standard, But I did want to clear that up, make sure. Now here's a trick question for you. If you would take those guys that do just the competition, just the field trials, would they stay away from the hunt test, or do they do dual stuff?
So
I'm sure
I'll
there's
tell
exceptions
you,
to the rule, but there's probably a general
there's-
rule.
I will say that most of any of the major leaguers, right?
Right.
So the guys that are getting paid to run field trials,
Right.
those guys aren't going to come down and run a hunt test.
Okay.
I will tell you that there is a huge percentage of us that are going across all the games with our labs. So
Right.
you've got APLA, the Pointing Lab Association, you've got the HRC, the Hunting Retriever Club, UKC Hunt Test, you've got the AKC Master Hunt Test, and then the field trials. And there's a couple of different components of the field trial. So you have the Derby for the dogs that are less than 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun one to compete in because that's all natural ability. It's hard. It's super hard.
Right.
But it's also more natural ability. You're not running a blind. You're running a double. Lots of fun also, but your odds of winning are pretty low. And then you've got the qualifying, right? So the qualifying is set up just like a regular field trial. You've got a triple. You're going to run a land blind, a water blind, and then you're going to run a water triple. And the qualifying dogs are basically saying you're qualified to run an open all-age event. So these qualifying events are full of hunt test guys.
Okay,
Because
gotcha.
having that level of competition and having a dog that can win against a bunch of other dogs, a qualifying event, that's a bigger deal for a hunt test guy.
I
Because
gotcha.
then we know right? So you've got a dog that can do HRC hunt test, AKC hunt test, and then you've got a dog that can go out and run field trials. That's a pretty special dog.
Yeah,
right?
no kidding.
And then
That's like a race car driver driving on all the different tracks: Clay Track, Indianapolis, Grand Prix, everything.
Absolutely, and it's a ton of fun too. And the dogs that get it and they can be successful in all the different venues, that's a pretty special dog, right? I mean, that's when you talk about a dog that'll point a pheasant, run a hunt test, and then can step way over here to the right and look at white coats 300 or 400 yards away and go beat a bunch of other dogs that are doing the same thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then there's two other things. So the Grand Hunting Retriever Championship for the Hunting Retriever Club, that's a special thing. That's a special event. And I want to say it's probably one of the least recognized titles of the lab titles.
Mm-hmm.
It's 5 series. So you've got, you'll run land or water each day for 4 days. And then the 5th day, you're going to run an upland. And it's hard. It's super, super hard. The standard goes way up compared to a weekend test. And it's only twice a year. So it's a special thing. So it's kind of like the AKC Master National, along the same lines.
Yeah.
But, it's super cool. It's the whole retriever world has all these little offshoots and stuff, and it's kind of interesting to see how different they are and how much they are the same too. It's crazy.
Now, I said before we hit record, I said, I was going through your website, and I fell in love with this picture because one of your dogs is a golden retriever. Where I told you we had one that basically raised our kids but wasn't a hunting dog. How did you find a golden retriever that was, a really good field dog like that?
So I'll tell you, they're getting to be more prevalent. I've actually been seeing a lot more litters on the ground.
Oh, that's good to hear. I like that.
The field bred golden is a special creature. I was introduced to it. It was a total fluke, actually. So buddy had Goldens. He was looking for another one, found him a litter, said, "Hey, I don't care what you do. I want to train the dog because I know it's out of field bred stock that is really good." And I knew Todd and Benita from the field trial game, and they were running that dog's dad in field trials. And I loved the dog, loved him. He was awesome. He was super compliant. He was willing to please. He was super nice to be around. He was just a really nice dog. So I knew what I had in Ben's dog. And so moving forward, I put a deposit down. I'm like, hey, I want one. I want one. Right.
Right.
She just turned 2, and we picked her up over Thanksgiving from Thunderstruck Retrievers in northern Minnesota. And I'll tell you, she's a special dog. We've had 0 issues in training. Now, she's made some mistakes in test and trialing.
Sure.
She's going to do that, but she's a joy to be around. I'd never handled her on a mark through seasoned or finished in the HRC world. She went 4 for 4 in her upland hunting title. She's very special. So looking for big things for her.
This is kind of a baited question, Sean. So bear with me because I'm such a golden retriever. A lot of people, I keep getting different dogs. I've got some rare breeds, and I keep saying, my daughter's like, "Dad, are you ever going to get a golden retriever again?" I'm like, I keep hearing more about them out there. That might be in my future so this is really baited just because I just love the golden, and I've never owned a lab. And I know there's in every breed there's like these genius dogs, but is the golden? I don't want to use the word smarter, but easier, or is there a point where you might not be able to ever get a golden to do the field trial stuff, or is there a golden that runs in field trials?
There are several Goldens that are running field trials right now. So
they got that motor then.
They have drive. There's no doubt about it. That dog would run with Horizon for me every time I asked her to. Her mom, Liberty's mom, is qualified all age. So she's at that level where she's going to run amateurs and opens. Her dad, I think he was a couple of points short of his AFC actually. So, but he won the field trial at our club 3 years ago.
Wow.
Oh, must be, yeah, it must have been 4 years ago. He won the field trial at our club. So it's there are definitely fieldbred Goldens that are playing the field trial game, and there are a ton of fieldbred Goldens that are playing the high-level hunt test game. So those dogs are going to the Grand, they're going to Master National.
Oh, nice.
They're very nice dogs, and I believe that a Golden Retriever can be as talented as most Labradors, for sure. And honestly, if you're looking for a dog that can do it all and come lay on your couch and not be a jackass, she's it. I mean, she would be a dog that I could bring in the house right now, and she would have no problem laying at my feet. My field trial bred Labradors, probably it's going to take them a little bit longer to settle down.
Right. There's just a little better off switch.
a little better off switch. I'll tell you, Ron, she also points pheasants.
Oh, come on now. Sean.
I'm not lying. I'm going pheasant hunting this weekend. I will send you a video of that little dog.
Oh, please do. Oh, I love it.
Pointing wild roosters. Quick story. I had a group that I've had for several years guiding, and there was a ton of sunflowers this year, and there is just tumbleweed patches all over the place. Well, they had just cut a couple of strips off the one edge of the sunflower field, so all these tumbleweeds are blown into the section line. Well, we got to drive down the section line to get to the next spot. And I'm looking in front of me, and I'm going, oh boy. Oh, okay. Everybody get out. Let's grab our guns. And I grab, who did I put on the ground? I put Liberty and I put Molly on the ground. And I'm just like, let's go. I'm watching just hordes of birds run down the two track in front of us. And it's super tall thistle, or tumbleweed, right? So I'm like, okay, here we go. Whew. Everybody spread out. We're just gonna walk down this till we get to the next spot and see what happens. Well, we get going, and these birds are still running. They haven't started flying yet, and I've got everybody spread out. And Liberty's running down the section line and stops on the dime. And she turns and she's looking inside. She's looking at as I'm watching birds run past her in the other single track. She's running down one side, the birds are running down the other, and she stops and she locks up, and she's just looking sideways like a pointer does. And I'm like, okay, get ready. And I blow the whistle. She sits down. Rooster gets up, gets killed. She picks it up and delivers to him. So, quick brag on.
No, I love it. So, I love it.
So that's
if pointing labs aren't enough controversy, right?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about pointing Goldens. Someone's going to be listening to this going, "Oh, come off of it!"
That's a bunch of shit. Yeah.
Now, and you may not be the right person to ask this, but now that I'm so, we're into the Golden right now. Did they start? Was there always just some Goldens that stayed in the game, or was this a UK influence? Because I know there's a lot of there's a lot of UK influence in Cockers and Spaniels and Labs.
I think it's mostly homegrown. I think there's been enough Goldens that have stayed in the game. You look at some of the historical Golden breeders, top brass, right? Everybody knows what a top brass.
Sure, that name's been around forever.
It's been around forever, and I think a lot of those dogs are still homegrown, American-bred field Goldens.
Right.
They're getting to be more and more popular because they're different and they have a little bit different personality. Some of them are a little softer, a little gentler. You got to train them maybe a little bit different than you would a lab, but a lot of them are. I didn't notice any difference when I was training Liberty compared to any of my other labs I've trained.
Right.
The drive's there, the willingness to please. You just keep adding pressure slowly, and she's awesome, dude. I wouldn't trade that dog for the world. Yeah, no,
you might not want to invite me out there unless you got an extra one that you want to part with.
Well, I'm sure we could find a breeder that's pretty similar.
I got to get through another couple, but I've kind of literally promised my kids that there's going to be a Golden Retriever on this property again someday. And this one, the weirdest thing with our Golden was, I would not call her gun shy because I never really took her hunting. But I used to take the kids, in the backyard and teach my daughters to shoot, and the dog just stayed in the house, did not want to be around, the 22 and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, I can't say she's gun shy. It's just that noise is bothering her. She doesn't want to be there. But during 4th of July, that dog would attack bottle rockets, firecrackers. Literally picked up one time, she, like I said, she was like Lassie. You know how like you couldn't believe how Lassie
yeah.
protected Timmy all the time. You know,
Yeah.
she'd be sitting there with the three girls, and I never forget this. I stuck a Roman candle in the grass in the front yard. Nice, easy thing. No one's going to get blown up. You know, you might get burned, but stuck it in the grass, lit it, and, it's just shooting. It's got like 8 or 9 balls that come out of it, right?
Yep.
And now it could be because she thought she was Lassie and was going to protect us, or that she was really never gun shy in the first place, because about on the second ball that came out of that Roman candle, she ran down, turned her head, grabbed that Roman candle out of the ground, which is now in the dog's mouth horizontal, okay, and starts running back up the driveway toward us, shooting the balls at all of us.
Oh, no.
And like literally we're like, incoming, incoming. And they're hitting the house and they're hitting the garage door, and she didn't give a rip. So I don't know what it was, but I think sometimes she was just like, I got this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I'm gonna. This number's going into long-term. I got a special category for phone numbers saved. So
There you go.
now you have a male also, right?
No, I trained Ben. It was my buddy's dog. I didn't,
Okay.
He's on the website. We did all that stuff, and he's a special dog too. Him and I had our disagreements, but he was super talented. One of the better marking dogs I've ever trained. And he was more self-employed on the longer blinds and more difficult blinds and things like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, fully capable. Great hunting dog. Great companion. Fun to be around. Yeah, great dogs.
I got to ask you another question too, as I'm perusing as we're talking. Did you build the? There's on your website you can see your facility and the ponds. Were those ponds there, or you modified them, or did you make technical ponds? Or did you just get lucky?
So I'm in the process of building technical ponds, and I think some of those pictures are a little older. We've got some tech water on the south side of the house. We had such a bad drought that I don't have much of anything for water.
Oh yeah.
The big pond still has water in it, and it's kind of technical, but it's getting to the point now to where it's pretty icky. You've got a foot of mud and things like that, and that's a little sketchy when you're talking about dogs tearing knees up and things like that.
Oh God, yeah, you get sucked right into the mud there. And,
not cool. So long-term plan, getting an excavator, building technical ponds, and finishing the whole thing and making it more of a field trial setup with the technical water. Because even if it's set up that way, you still train all the concepts, right?
Right.
Whether it's land, water, land, cutting corners, stay in the water, run a channel blind, all the concepts that you need to train a hunting dog. You still have to, and obviously someday I do want to, win a field trial, maybe. So I want to be able to train my dog.
Well, you might as well. You got the backyard to play with it, right? So you might as well do it.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, for sure. So we got lucky, and I thank my wife for all of that. None of this would be possible without her.
Did you marry a doctor?
You basically.
You might as well have.
Quick story. We're drinking wine, and this place had just come up on Zillow, the app Zillow. I'm like, honey, if I would never have to leave again, because at that point I was driving 45 minutes.
Right.
One way to train. So I'd load the dogs up, drive 45 minutes, train for as long as I could, drive home in the dark, 45 minutes. Spending a ton of money on fuel,
sure,
tearing up my pickup, all that, and I was like, when I retire from the military, this is, I would never have to leave the house. I could literally put the kids on the bus, go train all day, have supper ready, and be a happy dude and never have to leave the house to train a dog ever again.
And you pulled it off.
We pulled it off, and it was before everything got super crazy, with all the real estate prices and all this other stuff.
Right.
It was just it was fate. I believe that we were meant to be here, and it's amazing, and I'm blessed, and I can't take it for granted, and I got to do everything that I can here. So it's special, man. I'm so lucky.
It looks gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. We should definitely I want to get into we'll get into some yakking and ducking and hunting stuff. But your Project George, tell people about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. So, drinking beer on my birthday, I get a text message.
Oh,
from
we're going to
Kevin
get along
Mansfield.
good, even though you're younger than me. We're going to get along just fine. Keep going. Sorry, Sean.
That's okay.
I'm going to find
So
one
I
in the
get a
fridge while you're talking.
Yeah, actually, I get a big text. Kevin Mansfield from Nebraska wants to give a dog to a veteran, and he had asked a couple of the other people that I know, and at that point, I needed another dog, like I needed a hole in the head. But I looked at my wife and I said, I know you don't want to have another puppy right now, but I could train this dog and give a finished dog to a veteran and make somebody's life that much better. And so she was okay with it. And we had a bunch of puppies in the house in that time frame. I think George was like the third puppy we had in the house in a row. And puppies are a pain in the butt.
Yes.
They are. They're a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Potty training and going through that whole process, that it's a pain in the butt. So I got her blessing. I had this plan, right, that I'm going to train it just like I train any of my own dogs. And then at the end, I'm going to give it to somebody. I'm going to give away a finished dog. And George was an exceptional dog. He was a lot of fun. He trained very easily. He made some mistakes when we got to the finish level, but he was also, I think, like 14 or 15 months old. So just puppy mistakes, like immaturity mistakes that he made.
Yeah.
But he got his upland title. He went 4 for 4 for his season title. And then it got to the point to where I had to pick somebody. Well,
Yeah. Do they give you a list, or how does that work?
I have a friend, Brian Bashore, who does some video editing and stuff, and he put together a couple of really cool videos. He built the application for me. So you send them to a website. So you go click on the video, then you apply through the website, and I get a breakdown of basically the questions that I asked on the application. And then I started scrubbing those and started making contact with people. And it took me a while. It really did, because I've spent the last 18 months with this dog, and I know how good he was, and I knew that he could be an exceptional guide dog, or just an excellent
all around
addition for
great
the kennel.
dog. You hunt it or whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do with it.
Whatever you want to do with him. And I got down to probably around 50. And I sent emails to everybody, and you only got a handful back, and a couple of the guys were like, "Yeah, I know, I put my name in the hat, but now I've got this going on, or I got another dog, or
sure."
So a lot of them got weeded out that way. But I picked Jim Lynn, and he's from Brandon, South Dakota. Over 30 years in the National Guard, in the South Dakota Army National Guard. He has been on 4 combat deployments. He got diagnosed with cancer in 2018. He beat cancer. His last deployment was to Djibouti. He just got home from Djibouti this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and he's a hunter. His kids are hunters. The dog lives in the house, so I actually just checked up on him over Christmas, and he sent me a video of George and the cat getting in a spat on the couch. And I'm like, oh my God, so spoiled. And he's overweight now too. He's probably over 10 pounds overweight. So Jim, if you're listening, you need to cut George's food back. But it was special for me. I'll probably do something like that again in the future. Not right now. Because it takes a toll on you. You spend a lot of time with the dogs, and it was a pretty sad day. It was emotional.
Yeah, I bet. It's not like a dog that somebody just sent you and said, "Hey, I'm going to be able to give him to you for 6 months this year for training," and you always know that dog's going home. You always,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And in this one, you raise it like your own dog. I've always wondered, how people do that with the seeing eye dogs and stuff. They'd have to get so
attached.
Yeah, exactly.
There's definitely a bond there, and I don't know, like that retrieving freedom. Those dogs, especially the therapy dogs, the hours that those handlers are with those dogs before they find them a home, that would be tough. That'd be really, really hard.
But George is doing fine.
He's doing great. Quick hunting story with George. So Sawyer, Jim's son, is 14. Never been duck hunting before. So, hey, opening weekend, we're hunting George. Me, you, and Sawyer. Sawyer's shooting the first shot at every flock that comes in.
Right.
And we shot a lot. And so I think we ended up with like 4 ducks, and we got a bunch of geese around too, a bunch of local hunkers around, and Sawyer managed to knock down a goose, and George was in the blind with us, so he didn't see it where it landed or anything like that. But I'd been working with Sawyer on running the blind retrieve and lining the dog up and casting the dog, and when to give a correction, when not to give a correction, and just when to make the same cast over again. And
Yeah.
it was about 110 yards, and George got into the bushes and got that goose picked up, and it was a really special moment for me and for Jim and for Sawyer.
Yeah,
it's
like seeing your kid hit a home run. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So it was super cool. But he hunted all fall. I think Jim sent me the number of birds he picked up. Jim hunts a lot of pheasants, and George did great for him this year. So, and our season goes till the 31st of January. So he might.
I know you guys extended it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. If it wasn't for all the weather between here and there, I'd make another trip west. Just you never know when it's going to hit out there.
Oh yeah, you just never know.
Yeah.
I'm going up north this weekend actually. So the prairie birds, we can hunt grouse and partridge and prairie chicken until January 2nd. So my goal for the weekend is to get up there and chase some sharpies around and maybe poke at a chicken or two, but we'll see.
Nice. Nice.
And obviously go up and shoot roosters, but
anything that flies, it's legal, right? Yep.
Yeah, right now it is. Yeah, for sure.
How do you I think of sharptails and huns. How do your labs work those birds? And I don't mean, it kind of sounds like, well, they're hunting for them, Ron, but I mean, people talk about late season sharpies, late season pheasants. They're warier, but we're still talking about a dog that's in gun range,
Right. I tell you, to be honest, with the sharptail and the partridge, most of my dogs haven't had enough at bats to really know what they are. They'll pick them up. One of my favorite stories for and Golden, back to the Golden.
Yeah.
We had standing sunflowers at this place, and you had to walk. If you walked a half a mile from one end of the field all the way down to the other, you pushed all the birds out of the field, and you pushed them into the river breaks. Right.
Right.
So you sit on the fence line, and you pass shoot them as they come back in.
Nice. Yeah.
It was awesome. Now, it was great for, I think Libby was one. I think that was her first hunting season. So she's sitting next to me, just like we sit on the bucket at training, right? And there's guns out in the field, and they're dropping birds in the sunflower, and she's just running out there and picking them up. She's been an excellent grouse finder after they've been hit or things like that. But as far as walking out into the weed stubble, I mean, I don't think you can touch them long-legged dogs.
No,
Those dogs, you're turning loose and saying, all right, well, I'll catch up with you when you go on point. See you in a half hour.
Right. The birds can kind of tolerate that, but then, if you and the dog are in close proximity, that's enough to make most birds just say, sorry, that's really dangerous,
That's really dangerous.
That might be a slow, fat, black coyote, but that tall thing there.
Right. I've seen enough of those this season. Yeah, so a lot of it's, dependent on the terrain and stuff. We've got a lot of up and down, a lot of terrain changes, and a lot of fence lines that will dip down into a cut or into a river break and stuff like that. And you can get pretty close to some of those birds.
Oh,
especially
that's cool.
if you've got any weather, if you've got any wind, that can be really good. So
wow.
We'll see if I find any. I mean, I probably won't, but we'll see.
Hey, you said something about like these birds kind of bailing out of the sunflowers and then waiting for them to come back.
Oh, it was so cool.
I never heard that. Like, I've never heard.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Well, if I'm out pheasant hunting, I'm kind of going through that field, then on to the next field. Never thought about the fact that if that's their food plot,
that's their food,
and it's not the end of the day, they still want to come back and feed. They literally just get back in there, and that's cool. I like that.
I've heard guys using mojos to hunt them. I mean, at the end of the day, they're birds, right?
Right, so, right.
I've done that where I guide. You can almost, if you're spending enough time in an area, those big coveys of Sharpies, you can almost set your watch by them. As long as there's not anything crazy going on with weather, you could say, between 4 and 4:30, the birds are coming out of the sunflower field and they're going to roost, and you could literally sit underneath of them. And we've done that several times and had a lot of success.
Right.
It's difficult shooting. It's that high crosser that I can never hit.
Mm-hmm.
And guys are maybe not judging distance very well, so a lot of times they're shooting at birds that are out of range, but they're still shooting. And
Right.
that's the key when I'm guiding. My tip kind of depends on how many shotgun shells I can
Sure, exactly. Yeah. Opportunity.
Opportunities. Yeah, we got to give them the opportunity. So
I interviewed a guy, Sean, last summer, who he wrote an article in Shooting Sportsman, and he's got a border collie. And he had border collies growing up, and any dog can be a good bird dog, a good retriever, good kicking birds up. And he wrote another article. I was telling him about something I heard. He goes, "Oh, that was an article I wrote." He developed, or I don't want to say he developed them, modified or made sharp-tail decoys. Because when you said robo earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
and he'll get them by like hay bales, and he'll put them up on like a piece of PVC pipe, and it kind of looks like that sharp-tail is just sitting up there as a sentry.
Is he selling them?
I don't think so, but I started like, someone's got to come up with that. Me too.
Yeah.
Because you're right. My last trip to North Dakota this October, if you went down the road outside this farmhouse, if it wasn't me or one of the other guys in their trucks, they kept saying, saw that flock of Sharpies coming out, It might be 200 yards down the road, but they leave that field to go to that roost all the time. Yeah, they are targetable in that regard. And the decoys, I gotta give that a whirl next year.
I think that would be very interesting, because if you could, especially early season birds,
yeah,
where the sunflowers are still up and all that stuff, you could definitely, I think you could put a hurting on them pretty easily, actually.
Well, luckily you can only shoot 3, and then you're gonna have to go chase something legal, something else.
Right, something else. Yeah, go chase the partridge in the.
How was being a I would say a lifelong duck hunter for you? How is South Dakota, or in your neck of the woods? How are the ducks, or is it mostly locals, or is it just is it a thing you don't want to tell anybody?
No, it's South Dakota's interesting in the fact that just about everybody can go have their brown duck beat down on opening weekend, right?
Yeah.
Lots of success, lots of pictures getting posted. Everybody's having fun. Everybody's shooting teal. You may have the occasional guy that's just shooting mallards or whatever, but everybody's having fun. Everybody's having success. And then you go into the 2-week lull after the first week of the season, where all the birds have left high pressure areas, found places that they're not getting shot at,
right?
And all the teal leave,
right?
So, in that 2 weeks, it gets really tough. Unless you're putting on hundreds of miles scouting, you're going to have a hard time finding birds.
Right, right.
And that's kind of what I noticed this year. You almost had to follow the rain. And I had a couple of excellent days this year after opening weekend. There was a strip in central South Dakota that got 6 inches of rain, right? Well, that's where all the birds went.
Yeah.
And then the speckled bellies show up, and there was a whole bunch of cranes there. I really wanted to shoot a crane this year in South Dakota, and I never got an opportunity. But we were also hunting them with weather. So we had rain and wind and just crap weather, and the birds were moving around. We got into the field that I wanted to be in to kill a crane and to, could have had a limit of specs and a limit of ducks, because there was that many birds in there the 2 days before that. I mean, we were scouting these birds for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
And they were all in that field, and we got permission. And of course, all the weather stopped. Beautiful, beautiful bluebird day. Nothing had to leave the water, and they all just sat there. And we sat there till noon. I'm like, well, all right, pick them up.
Oh,
and
Lord.
We got nothing. But a couple of days before that, we had an excellent hunt. But I think if you're willing to put the miles on to find the birds, and you got to really be willing to go out of your comfort zone, right? So you got to be willing to drive 4 or 5 hours.
Oh yeah.
So, and it's a big state, and I think in my lifetime, the migration has moved west.
I've heard that. I've heard that for sure. Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up in Aberdeen. Well, Sand Lake National Wildlife Refuge is right there. I remember being able to see snow geese from all the way around me, millions of them. And that's where they went in the fall. That's where all the birds went. That's where all the snow geese went. And in the spring, same thing, right? And I just think that they're, with the amount of pressure that they're getting, because I would say that there's more waterfowl hunters now than there was when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's, and I just think that with the pressure, with the amount of pressure that they get along the I-29 corridor, because there's more people over there too, pushing them to the west.
Yeah,
But I think if you're willing to put the miles on, regardless of where you are in South Dakota, you can find birds.
Right.
And I think that we have some of the best waterfowl in the country. The late season, the birds showed up on the last day, right? So I aired dogs. I come out, I'm walking to the house, and I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Huge flock, 300 mallards. I'm like, oh, it's the last day of the season. That is one thing about South Dakota season, is that it ended on like December 8th or something, and it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get to get out there and chase them, but the migration was late this year, I would say, as well.
Yeah, I've heard that too. What I saw when we were in North Dakota, we were hitting some local. Well, we were hunting. I was actually out there just running a couple dogs, just getting. It was more of an exercise for that trip. But we knew we could get. Over there in North Dakota, you can get over to counter duck. Where in South Dakota, non-residents, it's a little bit of a hoop to jump through.
It is a draw, yeah.
Yeah, and but my neighbor and his son came out, and they really wanted to go duck hunting. And we were just like, there's a lot of local ducks, but like they just move. They get a little pressure. They move. They got another spot to go. And like the third day, all of a sudden, we're seeing mallards on every pond, and we're like, we had like visions of sugar plums in our head, right? We have this one pond that's like just north of this farm we're staying on. It was all on this person's property. Or at least, I mean, a piece of it wasn't, but it didn't matter. We could park. We had cattails to cover us up, and we're going back there. We're like, what we saw last night. Oh my God, we didn't see a mallard the next morning. Like, where did they go? They were just, and that was October, probably either. Yeah, it might have been right on my birthday, October 30th or November 1st. And then they were gone. And then we're back with just the locals that were there. And I'm sure it's that way too. Unless there's a really big weather thing, you can't.
Right.
It's hard to count on it. But,
right.
Here you got a backyard pond that could fill up with mallards on any given day. Yeah.
Oh, right. And soon enough, I'll be able to be here when they show up and be able to get after them. But got another 18 months, I think, total before that'll happen. So
No, what's the 18-month mark?
18 month, I get I'll hit 20 years active duty, so I'll be able to retire and do Patriot Retrievers full time. So right now, I work full time for the South Dakota Army National Guard.
Okay.
And Patriot Retrievers is my passion, is my what I want to do, and so when I hit 20 years active duty, I can retire and
nice
have a retirement.
You need one of those countdown clocks on your wall that says,
I do. Yeah. Oh, I already have one.
462 days, 12 hours,
Right.
3 minutes.
Yeah. So really looking forward to that. It's it'll be life-changing. It'll be a life-changing event, but I feel like with the work that I've done, set myself up, it shouldn't be too terrible.
No, sounds great. Sounds great. I probably should have tried some path like that myself, but I just figured I'd carry a toolbox around for 40 years. That wasn't the best idea. Trust me. I think you got the right idea. Well, Sean, it's been a pleasure. And when I was talking to a fellow this morning that was actually called me up for a little podcast advice. I said, if you've got something you want to say, if you've got something you want to do, absolutely do it. Don't think about money. Just if you feel like you got something you want to say, do it. And I told him one thing. I said, you will meet some great connections. So sorry, sure. I just suckered you into. I have your phone number.
I want you to come out.
I do.
We've got a lot of birds, man. It's and especially we get up into north central South Dakota. they just don't get hunted, and it's one of those places that's so special. And I'm really looking forward to this weekend to spend some time up there. And we're going to do a little coyote hunting, but, it's the bird hunting is just so good. And it won't matter how cold it is. I think the high on Saturday is supposed to be like 6 or something silly, but there's not supposed to be a lot of wind.
Okay.
So
well, that helps.
That helps a little bit.
Yeah.
It might make the bird hunting a little tougher, but there's some special places up there that it's,
Yeah, I think South Dakota,
awesome.
There's certainly all the hype and all the advertising. In fact, they advertise on my podcast once a year, the Chamber of Commerce. But
sure.
people get stuck in that one, I don't want to say 1/3 or 1/4 of the state. It's like I said, it's a big state. There's some, you could probably just go an hour away from somewhere and you'd find something that you didn't know was there.
Yep.
And you would almost, this is a total guess here, but when I started going to South Dakota 25 years ago, knocking on the door was piece of cake getting permission. Now, where everybody goes these days, you really can't get permission. I mean, you might get permission somewhere. Very tough. Yeah,
it can be, especially in the populated areas. So,
right.
You get around any of the college towns, it gets tough because what are the college kids doing? They're knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Because they're not afraid to get told no. I mean,
right.
You get a little older, you're like fear of rejection, right? So,
hey, my wife said yes. Why aren't you saying yes?
I think the further away you get from the populated areas, Onyx has changed the game for us.
Sure.
As hunters, right? So if you know who owns it and you can go meet those people. I mean, I was doing it in central South Dakota, not knowing any of those people that we were getting permission to duck hunt on.
Yeah.
Right? We started with the piece that I had already had permission on, but then I'm knocking on doors. And, this guy's renting it. You got to go talk to that guy. You got to go talk to that guy. Well, it takes 3 hours to get to the guy because you start a conversation with somebody. But those people that you meet through the process, I think, you can build those relationships.
Yeah.
I think you can still do it, but you got to be willing to put the time and the miles on.
Right.
And a lot of people just aren't. They're afraid of rejection and they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because you can pay for it. I mean, you can pay for it. You can come to South Dakota and you can go to a lodge. And
sure.
You can.
You're gonna have fun. You're gonna have fun, but it's just not the same. I mean, I love cruising through South Dakota. Being from Michigan, you wouldn't know. You come up to a 4-way stop in Michigan and you could get T-boned very easily, right? Even if you hit the brakes at the legal spot of the stop sign and just poked out around a corner. Some yahoos, we got so many trees, you can't see what's coming a quarter mile away from it. And in South Dakota or North Dakota, I love that. Just go, you come up to a road, you see the crossroad, you're like, there's nobody here. It's like a ghost town, It
is, and the prairie's a special place. I mean,
yes.
I was in Denver last weekend for Christmas, and the mountains are cool and all that stuff, but you can't see what's over the next hill. You get out here, and it's when I get to look out my backyard and I can see 3 miles, that's pretty special. And I grew up with it. I love it. It's awesome. So.
Yeah. Well, all right, Sean, I'll let you get back to whatever you're getting back to. I'm going to get in the house here, but really appreciate you coming on. I'm glad I can't remember who. I should have given him a shout out, and I can't remember who gave me your name. Eric. Yeah.
Eric. Yeah.
Thank you. It's another connection, and one less door I'll have to knock on, one I can just pull up to and tell them I'm here.
Let's go. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, Sean.
Awesome. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Well, you know what that probably means. One of these years, there's going to be a golden retriever in this kennel again. Well, there's never been a golden retriever in this kennel, but there might be. I am so weak, Oh, I'm like a old romantic. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you to my Patreon patrons, Pike Gear, Onyx, CZ USA, Boss Shot Shells, Waltons, Purina, Gunner, Kennels, Garmin, K9 Athlete, W Hunting Supply, Deck Drawer Systems. Whew, I'm getting tired. You getting tired? I'm tired. See you next week. Bye.